After Cyrus had conquered Lydia, he wasn't really interested in going into war with the neighboring empires or city-states, which were mostly the Greek city-states. His intention was to go against a different powerful empire at the time, and that is Babylon in Asia. But so he appointed somebody to be in charge of Lydia, and he wanted to be on his way, but some circumstances forced him to put in place or to leave behind an army that will continue with the campaigns against the neighboring empires and city-states in Asia Minor and Europe. And there are two main reasons why Cyrus saw it okay, or saw it necessary to leave an army behind to continue fighting the neighboring empires and kingdoms and city-states in Asia Minor and Europe. And one of those reasons is that when he was preparing to attack Lydia, he had approached the neighboring empires and kingdoms and the Greek city-states and asked them to join him in an alliance against Lydia. And some did join him and some did not. And to be fair to those who did not join Cyrus the Great, Lydia was a powerful empire, and they were not sure whether Cyrus was going to conquer Lydia. So if they had joined Cyrus and then the Persians lose to Lydia, then they have this neighbor who will continue fighting them and will become an enemy, and they didn't want that. So after Cyrus had conquered Lydia, the Greek city-states and other kingdoms around that had not joined him sent messengers to him, and they wanted to sign treaties with him. And he was not willing to do that. And in fact, the answer he gave the messengers, he gave them an answer using this story of a musician who was walking next to a river or a lake or an ocean, and he sees a fish, and he start playing his music, musical instrument, expecting the fish to dance, and then the fish does not dance. Then he takes out a net and he captures the fish and he pulls them onto land, and then the fish starts dancing. Of course, when you pull fish out of water, it will start moving because it's lacking oxygen and they die. So while the fish are dancing, he tells them, stop dancing, because when I wanted you to dance, you did not. So basically telling them, when I wanted you to join me in an alliance, you did not join me. So stop coming to me now after I've conquered Lydia to ask me to be in an alliance with you. That was the first. So the first reason is because of the city-states or kingdoms that did not join him in the war. The second reason is that some of the Greek city-states made this mistake, and they were led by Sparta. So they sent messengers to Cyrus and told him, Cyrus, we come to you and we are warning you not to attack Sparta and our allies. And that, up to that point, Cyrus was not very much, he did not have much knowledge about Sparta. And he was like, who are these people who have the audacity to come before me and warn me not to attack them? And he was told those are Spartans. And because of that, I think his ego was kind of bruised. He decided, I'm going to teach these people a lesson. So, but he did not want to go to war he himself or lead a war against the Greeks himself. So he appointed Harpagus, the one Harpagus who Astyages, the person Cyrus the Great removed out of power, had killed his son and fed him the flesh, because Harpagus had failed to kill Cyrus. So that Harpagus. So Cyrus appointed Harpagus to lead the war in Asia Minor and Europe. So with that done, and Harpagus was very successful. He brought a lot of, or many city states and a huge area of the Greek land under the Persian rule. So he left that campaign to Harpagus, and then he went back to Asia, and he was intending on attacking Babylon and then later on Egypt. So at this point of the story, now preparing us to the war that was going to happen between the Persians, the Medes, and then the Babylonians, Herodotus goes on a tangent again. As have mentioned before, he does this a lot throughout the book. He is giving us this one story of the Persians fighting everybody else, but he goes on tangents where he gives us more stories, more history. It describes geography, communities, tribes, and everything, economy, everything, in fact. So he tells us about Babylon, and he says that he himself did visit Babylon, and he had conversations with people who lived there, priests, priestesses, business people. So he visited the city, he described it as a huge city, a very big city. And then now he gives us a story. He tells us that among the rulers of Babylon, there were two notable women rulers. And one of those is Semiramis, and the other one is Nitocris. Now, in the Bible, the book of Daniel, chapter 5, there is a story there, and we are told of the story of Belshazzar. Belshazzar is holding a party, and he uses utensils that the Babylonians took from Jerusalem, and that angers God. And then a finger appears on the wall and writes something, mene mene tekel Ephraim, Epharsin, something like that. And then the Belshazzar calls Daniel and asks him, so can you translate for us what those words mean? And Daniel tells him, is God telling you that the days of your rule are coming to an end, and you've been weighed and found wanting? And then the Babylon fell under Cyrus. So that's the story in the Bible, in the book of Daniel. But when you read Herodotus' histories, Herodotus gives us more detail, the context, what happened before and what happened after the fall of Babylon to the Medes and Persians, to Cyrus. But there are details that do not match. In the book of Daniel, Daniel identifies Belshazzar as a king. But Herodotus tells us that when Cyrus came to Babylon, it was not Belshazzar who was the king. It was Nabonidus who was the king. Daniel tells us that Belshazzar was the son of Nebuchadnezzar. But Herodotus doesn't really talk much about Nebuchadnezzar. But if combining what Herodotus explains with other sources, it becomes clear that Belshazzar was not a son to Nebuchadnezzar, but he was a son to Nabonidus. And now, Herodotus tells us that Nabonidus was the king when Cyrus came along. Now, turns out that Belshazzar was the son of Nabonidus, but he wasn't a king, he was a prince. The father was very old, and he ruled on his behalf. So he was basically a king. So maybe Daniel is not wrong to identify him as a king, because he performed the kingly responsibilities, because the father was kind of very old. Now, Belshazzar was a son of Nabonidus, and Nabonidus was the husband of Nitocris. Nitocris was a very powerful queen, and Herodotus goes into detail to explain who this lady was, she undertook a lot of projects that to improve the city of Babylon. She did a lot, and in fact, Herodotus talks a lot about her uh, as the only other powerful queen in Babylon besides Semiramis. And now, there is something that happened with Nitocris. Herodotus tells us that when she died, or before she died, she asked that her body be buried with a knot. Later on, I'll say what the knot was saying, and then outside the the the, the tomb, it was written that uh, if any of her successors lacks money or needs money, they should open the tomb and take as much money as they need. But they should only do that if they indeed need the money. Otherwise, there will be trouble for them. So they shouldn't open it unless they really need money. Then they can open her tomb, and there's a lot of treasure in it. So that was written outside the tomb. And many years went by, and now this is happening after Cyrus, although Herodotus is giving us this story as a tangent before Cyrus conquers Babylon. But now he tells us about Nitocris and how she tricked Darius, who came after Cyrus. In fact, Darius comes, there was Cyrus, and then there was Cambyses, his son, and then there was somebody else in between there, and then there was Darius. So this happens many years later. So, but Herodotus tells us this story before he continues telling us the story of Cyrus taking over Babylon. So after she dies, she's buried, and there's that text on the outside the tomb. It came to the time of Darius. Cyrus is dead. Cambyses is dead. Somebody else took over somewhere in between there. They are gone. And I'm going to create another video to explain how it moved from, because Darius did not come from the family of Cyrus. He's a different family, but he continued the whatever Cyrus, and he had a lot of respect for Cyrus. I'm going to explain how the leadership of Mid-Persia Empire moved from the family of Cyrus to Darius' family. So, so when Darius was now the king of the Persians, he came to Babylon, and he was going through the gate, and this tomb was just next to the gate. And he sees the tomb, and he decided to go and check. And it was not only checking, but he was like, how can there be treasure just left lying here? And he went and he opened the tomb, and looking inside, what was there was the body of the dead queen, and next to it was a note, but there was no treasure. And the note read something but like, had you not been insatiable of wealth and being covetous, you are not you would not have broken open the resting place of the dead. So that was what they so yes, so I thought I should end there, and then I'll create another video now talking more of how Cyrus now came to conquer the city Babylon.